Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm here with my colleague, Nick Kramer, who will be taking us through artificial intelligence for Scrum teams. And we'll be starting in just a moment. Just want to let you know that if you're interested in any upcoming webinars, you can look at our site, webagesolutions.com/webinars. And if you're also looking for past recordings, you can actually find them there at that URL, but we also have them all on our YouTube channel, just WebAge Solutions Inc. So go ahead and check them out there. I'm sure that Nick has some great other Agile and Scrum ones that you might be able to find. But welcome everyone. My name is Anne from WebAge Solutions, and WebAge Solutions is now part of Accel Learning for instructor-led training. So we're also with Accelerate and with WebAge Solutions and Exit Certified, which is actually great news for you because we've got access to many more courses, instructors, and we can customize any class for you still. So we're still WebAge Solutions, and we still do the same great stuff, and we do customized classes for teams and Fortune 500 companies all over the world, in the US, and of course online. We also teach a lot of other things other than Agile, just in case you didn't know, like AWS and cloud, DevOps, Java, mobile, JavaScript technologies, Microsoft, you name it. But today we're here to talk about Agile and Scrum training. And if you take a look at our website, I've got a URL there for webagesolutions.com/Agile and Scrum training. You might not see a course for specifically AI and Scrum, but luckily Nick here can customize any course, and also any Agile class that you see, we can add AI modules in there. And I've had the pleasure of working with Nick for probably over 5 years now, but he's got 12 years of practical Agile experience. He creates Agile courses for all of our clients and has trained a lot of people in Agile, over 5,000 people. And I can tell you that he is just as pleasant to work with behind the scenes as he is in front of the class. No, great guy. If you haven't had a class with him or seen a webinar with him, you're in for a treat today. And if you want to get in touch, getinfo@webagesolutions.com works, or you can just visit us at webagesolutions.com. So let me go ahead and pass this over for you, Nick. Thank you so much for being here, and thanks to everyone else for being here as well. So let me just pull my camera and make you presenter.
All right, everybody, make sure I'm sharing the right window. Welcome, everybody. This is AI for Scrum Teams. This is our beginner webinar on AI and how to use ChatGPT as Scrum Teams, whether you're a Scrum Master or a product owner. This is for you. Now, if you've used ChatGPT for a little bit, this might be a little bit of review, but hopefully you'll pick up on a few tips, and then you can watch our website or our emails for maybe an advanced level webinar that we'll be doing maybe in the next few months or so as we learn, because this is all kind of new to everybody, right? So my name is Nick. I have been doing this a long time. I just want to point out what makes me a little bit different as an instructor is I do this about half my time. The other half of the time, I am actually a product owner right now on a product in the company where I am trying to we are trying to launch an AI program. So this is some stuff that I've been actually using, trying to launch some new stuff as a product owner. Before this, I was a Scrum Master for a long time, as well as a trainer. So this is stuff that I actually do every day. I'm gonna actually show you things that I've been using since I figured out how to use AI about 6 or 8 months ago or so, when it kind of finally hit the market and became reliable. So hopefully we'll pick up a few tips. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the questions section of the webinar, and I will hopefully get to them at the end of class, or if they pop up in the middle, I will try to answer them as we go along. Also, I'm having some technical difficulties, so hopefully that doesn't hold us up. All right, so what is ChatGPT? What is it, right? ChatGPT, it's a mouthful. ChatGPT is actually a type of computer program, or sometimes referred to as a language model. It understands human language and can generate text just like a person, Right? So it can do lots of different things. It can do task planning, it can do business planning, summarizing complex documents, translations. It can even help write code. It can do all kinds of stuff, as we'll see. It could even write a whole novel if you wanted it to. But really, the question is how does it accomplish this? And it does something what's called machine learning. And this is a way that we teach computers similar to the way we look at experience. So Chat GPT has been fed a whole bunch of data, and it really doesn't read it. It's looking for patterns and it's looking for text. And so when you ask a question, it looks for similar things that it's been fed, and it extrapolates those and gives you the answers that it's looking for. It's really looking for patterns, right? It's not really reading anything. There's really honestly not a lot of intelligence there. It's just looking for a bunch of patterns. And the more people that use it and the more you use it, it starts to understand the patterns that you're looking for. It starts to understand what other people have fed it and how it's been corrected and going on. So ChatGPT is a great tool. I should point out that it's not always 100% right. Oftentimes it's wrong. So if you're going to use this AI tool to create or to summarize or to do things, you may want to double check and look for errors and that kind of thing. I've made a couple mistakes where I published some data that I thought came out of ChatGPT, turned out it was wrong. So now I've been really diligent about making sure that I run it through translations and things like that to make sure that it is actually correct. All right, so what can ChatGPT do? It can do all of the things here on the screen and then some. It can summarize data. It can do brainstorming techniques. It can synthesize. It can write, or it can do Q&A. It can help write code. It can extract data, look for patterns, and it can refactor data and a lot more. One thing to note about ChatGPT is it generally doesn't have access to the internet itself. It just has access to the data it's been fed. So if you need access to the internet, you'll want to still use Google or Bing or something like that. However, there are some other tools that are on the market, coming out on the market, and I know Google and Bing and some other tools. There are some other ways to use ChatGPT to actually access the internet. But for what we're going to be talking about, and if you're a basic learner, I would recommend you do the Google searches separate and let ChatGPT do its thing. The other thing to notice about ChatGPT is it doesn't know anything that happened past September of 2021. So it can be a little bit behind the date sometimes. However, if you have more data you want to feed it, you can certainly do that. And I will show you some use cases here in just a little bit. So we hear a lot about prompt engineering when we talk about these AI tools. So what is prompt engineering? Prompt engineering is our ability to craft the questions or the tasks that we're asking the tool to do for us. Right? It's a very complex process at first, but as you get used to it, it becomes easier, and you can learn how to write and engineer the prompts so that you can get the information you want. Now, the good news is just because you write you may not write the prompt right the first time, but you can keep asking more and more questions until you get it correct, and then you learn as you go. You're both learning, right? You and the tool are learning at the same time. So prompt engineering, we're going to talk a little bit how do you do proper prompt engineering from a basic perspective, and then we're going to run through some cases here on how you do some of these prompts if you were a Scrum Master, product owner, or developer. So we call this prompt priming, where you kind of think about what do I want to do? What am I trying to get out of the system? What data am I trying to do? What results am I trying to get? This is called prompt priming. Poor prompts lead to poor answers, right? Good prompts lead to good, tailored, specific information that helps you get what you need. Now, the basic prompt framework that I used when I first started to look like this. I would say, what was the subject I wanted? I actually just put in there subject, colon, what's the subject I'm looking for? I would tell it what task I wanted it to perform, whether I wanted to summarize, brainstorm, those kinds of things. And then I put the instructions on what I did, and then I would give it a context. This is a great format to use when you first start to do prompts because it makes you think through each one of these steps individually. And you can cut and paste this and drop it in and then fix what's in the brackets and get what you want. So if you're a very beginner, I would recommend using a prompt framework like this to kind of get the data that you want. But as you become more and more familiar, there are other ways to write prompts that might be more efficient for you or that you might find more beneficial. And so we're just going to talk a little bit about that. But my giant pro tip that I want to mention right off the bat about prompting is you should always ask ChatGPT to act as something, okay? Always say, I want you to act as a Scrum Master, act as a product owner, and be very specific. If you want to be an expert Scrum Master or expert Agile coach, say that. If you want to be a beginner Scrum Master or beginner product owner, say that, right? So be careful what you say because it will respond then as if it has that skill set that you gave it. And I'm gonna give some interesting examples how to do that before. Now, when writing frameworks, there are really three other kind of frameworks besides the one that I showed you before. One is called RTF, where you tell it the role that you expect it to act as, the task you expect it to complete, and then the format. Okay, this is the most common one that I use over and over, but you could use what's called the CTF, the context task format, or this RASCEF format to get what you want out. And there are really then two other kinds of methods to doing prompts. You could write one giant prompt if that's helpful for you, what's called a mega prompt, or you can write one simple prompt and then add more prompts to it as you go to chain them together, which I do a lot because I don't always get what I want right away or in the format that I am looking for. A couple other things to know before we jump into practicing some prompts is there's some tones that you want to ask. And what tones are is it's basically saying, when you give me the data, I want you to give it back in a certain tone, like you want it to be conversational language that it returns. Do you want it to be lighthearted, Spartan? My favorite one when I'm doing something that I don't know anything about is say, to explain it to me as if I'm a fourth grader. This is a good one. So you could be formal, right? Conservative, however you want the results to come back. You can also then tell it to be concise. You can tell it to use less corporate jargon. You could tell it to be in bullet points, tell it to be in tables, right? Or be very detailed. A lot of times I will write prompts that say, just give me 2 sentences. Right? So this format is very important when writing your prompts. And then lastly, here, you also want to encourage it, right? So tell it you are a world-class expert in something or you are a beginner in something. So give it some encouragement to say where it's starting at. You want to correct it. If it gives you a poor response or incorrect information, tell it so, right? Say, this is not correct. This is what I expect to see, or I think you've made a mistake. Let's recalculate. It's the only way it's going to learn, right? You might ask it to ask for clarifying questions or topics you might miss. And lastly, sometimes you want to tell it about the temperature that you're looking for. If you're looking for something to be creative, like you're like brainstorm a marketing idea and that's a very creative thing, you'd give it a temperature of a 1. If you want something that's very factual, very academic, very formal, then you would give it a temperature of a 0. So make sure that you, right, because sometimes it'll be, it'll almost give like a flippant answer and you're like, no, that's not what I want. Give me a temperature 0 because I need a very serious answer. All right. So let's jump over and look at ChatGPT. I have it booted up over here on Chrome. And if you have an account, when you sign in, there are really 2 kinds of formats of ChatGPT, right? There's 3.5 and there's 4, right? 3.5 is free. It might be a little slow, but generally it does everything that you could possibly want it to do. Now I'm using the version 4 because I want to show you a couple things that are quite handy. And I pay $20 a month to use it. And to me, it's well worth it for the time that it saves me. Okay, off to the left over here is the new chat area. You can start a new chat. You can see I've got several chats already started over here. Very handy. So let's just start a new chat here. Yep, new chat, and it hit send a message. So I am just going to send a quick message that says very basically, give me, I come up with a bunch of examples. Give me 3 skills to improve, oops, time management skills. And then I'm going to hit enter. Now notice I didn't tell it what kind of expert it is. It's a very basic prompt. Spells things right here. Okay, and it's going to come back and see the data that it gets. Now this is pretty good information, right? Saying if you were going to improve your time management skills, you might want to look at prioritization, look at your tasking. It tells you how to improve that, and then time blocking. Now, this is all really good information, but we're in the Scrum and Agile field, right? This might not be relevant exactly to what we're talking about. So let's change our prompt a little bit, and let's say, I actually just gonna cut and paste, it's easier. Let's say we want it to do, act as an expert in Scrum, Agile, and Lean, and please provide 3 skills in time management. Right? Let's hit enter. And notice now, for those of you that are Scrum experts, right, it tells you how to do time management using Scrum. So it's giving us a completely different answer now because we use Scrum and Agile. Right? So it's telling us how to do effective sprint planning and how to improve it. It's telling us we should probably limit our work in progress and regularly reflect and adapt. So as you can see here, the data that you put in tells us the data we're going to get back out. Let's try a couple of different examples when we're talking about tone, right? And trying to understand the tone that comes back. So this one here, I'm going to talk about how to describe the Pomodoro technique and its benefit of time management. So if those people that don't know what the Pomodoro technique is, it's a technique where you go from 25-minute work and then you take a break, and then you do 25-minute work and then you take a break. When I'm writing a new class, I use the Pomodoro effect a lot because I want to stay focused, but yet I need to take breaks occasionally, to get the information I want. So look here, it's very academic. It's very generic on how the Pomodoro effect works. But this might be good information. But on the other hand, let's say I've never heard of this technique before. So I'm going to say, well, how about you explain it to me as if I was a 4th grader. Okay. Now this is what we call chaining together. So hopefully it'll catch up on what it did, and it should now explain this technique as if I was a 4th grader. See it say, imagine I have a special tomato-shaped kitchen timer, right? And we're doing my task and walking through very basic steps how to do this. I actually use this, explain it as a 4th grader when I'm creating classes quite often, because the first time you explain a subject, even if you're working with adults, you'll say you got to have it pretty basic. And then the next time you walk through the next iteration of explaining it, then maybe you can explain it in more detail. Right? I might not use some of this jargon, but it definitely tells you how to break it down in simplest terms. So let's try a different one. Let's say we wanted to use a tone as if the person had a PhD in physics. Okay. So this is a whole different skill set. I was trying to think of the smartest people that I know. I was watching the Big Bang Theory and this came up. So now look here, it says how it's going to do it. Uh-oh. That's not right. Let's do it again. Oops. Thankfully, it's not. Let's see what happens now. That's the same thing. See, this is where it gets a little confused sometimes. Let's place it one more time in here. Explain it to a person that has a PhD in physics and see what happens. It's the same thing. Anyway, you can see it changes the tone a little bit. So let's say I want to explain it to somebody with a PhD in conversational tone now, as if we were a little less academic, and notice how it comes on. It actually has a conversation. So you can see how the tone changes how it returns the data. If I wanted to have it explained in a very Spartan language, I can definitely do that. Let's try that. See how that's a little bit different. So the tone definitely tells you how the results come back. I think tone for me is probably one of the more important aspects. Explaining to it as an expert or a beginner, and then the tone is something that I find to be super valuable to explain. So understanding how prompts work, understanding how you want to get the data back out is sometimes the trickiest part, but once you figure it out, this is where the real value lies. So when would we use this as a Scrum Master or product owner? And I get this question a lot about, is this ever going to replace Scrum Masters and product owners? And in my opinion, it's not there yet, and I doubt it will ever be there, because the Scrum Master product owner roles kind of fall into two categories: people versus process, right? And we could actually, if we use that instructor, that one, let's just do this and bring it up. I'm going to share my screen, my chat GPT. So let's ask it to trying this subject task method. What I'm saying is create a comparison table between Scrum Masters and Chat GPT based on the skills and Scrum responsibilities of a Scrum Master. And I'm telling it what kind of columns I want it to have. And I wanted to break it down by people and process. And then I'm saying, tell me how Chat GPT could help. So let's just bring this up. Brings it up in table format because that's what I asked. And so we should all be familiar with this, right? Some of the primary responsibilities of a Scrum Master anyway are facilitation, coaching, right? These are all people skills, protecting the team. And then it has a whole bunch of process things that a Scrum Master does, right? We remove impediments, we facilitate sprint planning, we promote continuous improvement. Now, ChatGPT might be really good at helping us with some of the process things. We can automate the process. We can find quicker ways to do things. We can help with the process steps. But ChatGPT will never be able to help with the people skills, right? It might give you ideas on how to approach people, but when it comes to the interpersonal skills, the emotional intelligence, all of these things that goes in with creating a really solid team, this tool will never be able to do. So I believe that if you can't use ChatGPT, you might not be able to pull off the process part effectively, and you might fall behind. And the Scrum Master role is really going to be about building teams and helping teams to succeed. Right? You will be using ChatGPT to do the process tools, right? Because really, what this all boils down to is, as you know, the average Scrum Master makes $55 an hour in the United States, and we can get ChatGPT easily to do the tasks that were probably $5 or $10 worth. The skills the tasks we don't really need to pay a Scrum Master to do, we can definitely automate using the tool, freeing up Scrum Masters to do all the good things that they should really do. Okay. So that's my opinion, at least for now. I'd be curious what everybody else thought. Shoot me an email if you disagree with me. I'd love to hear from you guys. Okay, so let's go on. I'm going to go through some use cases since we don't have a lot of time left here. The first use case I want to talk about is you could use ChatGPT for if you are a product owner to create a business model canvas. I'm not sure if this is something that everybody uses, but it's definitely something that I use. And so I am just going to cut and paste the prompt that I have here, put it into ChatGPT. And you'll notice here that I'm saying that I'm an expert product owner and I want to write a business canvas. And I'm saying our company that we're writing our product we're on is we are an online shoe store and we'll be creating shoes from leftover luxury handbag leather. Our goal is to be a sustainable company that works with luxury handbag manufacturers to remove excess inventory from the market. And we'll be selling our shoes at a high price point. Now, the more information you give it as a product owner, the more detailed your business canvas will be. So let's just click on this and see what it generates for us. There we go. It's pulling out creating a business canvas. Now, one thing that you could definitely ask the tool once it's done here. So this is a nice business canvas that kind of walks through this. You might say, what additional information might you need to improve the business canvas, right? And it should come back with some suggestions. See, it's telling us maybe you should give me some market research, maybe you should give me some financial projections. So, right, it knows what it might be missing. And you can say, oh, as a product owner, I can go get some of this information, or maybe I need to go do some empathy techniques or whatever it is to get the information. I'm going to stop this from generating to get that information that I need. So that's my first case is to use it to write business cases, business canvases. Here, let's drive over to another use case. Oops, showing you my presenter notes, showing you the magic. This one here is create example user stories. If I was a product owner, I am a product owner, sometimes writing user stories can be a bit tricky. So let's put a prompt in there to write some user stories. Sorry, screen is hiding my. All right, in this case, we are, I didn't cut that out right, sorry. We're an expert product owner and we're specializing in creating user stories, as you can see here. And what I'm saying here is I want it to break down user stories using the invest model from the epic that I'm providing it. So I want 5 stories from this epic. As an admin user, I need the ability to assign security to the database administration of our shopping cart platform. Let's see what it says. So it says, here's my epic. Here's story 1. Story 2. Now, of course, the more information you could provide here, the better. You could even upload, and if we have time, I'll show you how you could upload PDFs into it, or you can connect it to Google Drives. There are even tools that will allow certain ChatGPT programs to connect to your Jira platforms. There are AI tools that will allow you to connect to MS Teams, so you can actually point it at certain epics and stories and Confluence pages and all kind of that to get the data that it needs to understand more about what it's doing. But from a basic perspective, it's saying, hey, here's good 5 stories, right? The next prompt that I want to talk about, my next use case is, let's see, what is it? Not that one. Oops, what am I displaying? You'll love this. Okay, the next one is splitting stories, even though I have a typo, my bad, sorry. So splitting stories is always hard for some people, right? So let's just say I have this story here and I'm going to split it. So this is use case number 4. Let's talk about what it is. All right, jump back over to. All right, so it's saying I have this story here and I want to split it using the invest model. Or I'm saying critique the below the list of user stories using the invest model. So let's see what it says. I wanted to critique my stories. I think I grabbed the wrong use case, but this will work. So it's telling me what invest is: independent, negotiable, valuable, estimatable, small, right? All this. And then it's telling me, oh, here's some things I might be missing: lack of acceptance criteria, potential ambiguity, areas for improvement. So this is pretty cool. If you could feed it your real life stories and give it some background information on what you're doing, boom, it can spit out even a better story. Now, I'm not sure about all of you, but I also struggle sometimes with writing sprint goals. Teams have a really hard time writing sprint goals sometimes. So let's give a prompt here on how to write a sprint goal. Notice here, I'm saying that I'm an expert product owner. You could be a Scrum Master, and I want to use the Roman Pichler template for writing sprint goals of goal, method, and metric, right? And then I'm saying, here are the 4 stories, I think that's 4, that my team is considering working on this sprint. So I'm going to ask it to write a sprint goal and come up with metrics. So let's see. Okay, so there's my sprint goal it's coming up with. Now, I deliberately put this one story in that doesn't have anything to do with, there's a little bit off. So I'm going to ask it, based on this sprint goal, do all the stories, let's do this different. Are there all stories related? Or do we have a story or two that may not apply? So let's see what it says. So it's going through each story and it's saying, see, it's saying yes, yes, yes on the first 3. And then the 4th story, it's saying yes, but it's indirectly related, right? So it's slightly not in there. So if you wanted to really focus on a goal and you wanted to make sure that every story in a sprint was focused on this particular goal, so you don't have outliers and you're staying focused, this one might be one that you might consider pulling out of the sprint goal or writing a second sprint goal or something like that. So this is a great way to write sprint goals. Now, if this was my team, I wouldn't use this sprint goal exactly, but this at least gives us a starting place to have a conversation about sprint goals. I know sprint goals are tricky to write, especially for new teams or teams that are just starting to adopt it. And a lot of times they're writing them after the fact, after they do their sprint planning, and then they're trying to shoehorn in a sprint goal. This is a great way to say, are we actually writing good sprint goals? Are we pulling the right stories? And that kind of thing. So sprint goals are another great way to write user or to use it as a Scrum Master or product owner. Another great way that I use ChatGPT, I often do as a Scrum Master or product owner. Sometimes my team won't understand a concept just yet, right? And I need to be able to explain it to them. Maybe we're going to talk in a retro on how to improve our writing sprint goals. So maybe I say here that I'm an expert coach, Agile coach, and Scrum Master, and I need to write a video script that explains how to write sprint goals. This should be conversational and take no more than 2 minutes. Maybe I don't know how to explain it to somebody, and I want to be able to explain it real quick as a kind of a kicking off of the meeting. So if I hit this here, notice that it will actually print me off a script. Now it thinks that I want to create a video because I said video, right, which is okay. There are a lot of great tools. I wish I had time to show you that you can actually take this script, plop it into a tool, and it'll create a 2-minute video for you. And you could post it out on YouTube or something. But this is a great way to explain, but you probably don't want the stage direction. So I would say, this, please remove the stage direction. And it should rewrite it now without the stage direction. I have been known to send these kinds of scripts out as part of my agenda for a meeting that I'm having and saying, we're going to talk about sprint goals. This is a high level what a sprint goal is. Please read this in advance, and then we can really kick off the conversation when we get started. So these are the kind of things that I use ChatGPT for. The other one that I use it for quite often, I'm going to jump to this conversation that I have ongoing here, is I have uploaded a PDF of a bunch of research data for electric cars on the West Coast. So if you're a product owner and you're trying to find patterns and all kinds of things, this is just some free data that I took off a government website. But you could upload the data into the tool. All you do is type upload data and it tells you how to do that. If I can't do it because it'll reload it and it takes a while. But then you can ask questions about the data. So you could ask questions like, how many electric cars have been sold in Washington in 2022? Now you could probably pull this data pretty easy out of an Excel spreadsheet. Right? That's not that big of a deal. If you know how to write queries, you could definitely do that. But this is pretty easy. Right? Yeah, I just uploaded the data. It takes a few seconds. Now, boom, here comes all the totals in for 2020. It says there are 47,000 electric cars. And you can get very specific and you could say, let's just copy this same one here. And you could say how many electric cars have been sold in Washington, and I can say create a table and break the data by model. Let's see what this does. I should have probably tested this before. Let's see what it says. Here we go. It's creating a table. So it's saying there were some Tesla cars. And again, you could probably pull this pretty easy, but this is where it gets interesting. So we could say, let's do the same prompt and add more to it. I want to see a ring. You could say, how many electric cars have been sold in 2022? Create a table by model. And then I want to say, and I want to change my mind. I'm going to say, assuming that car sales increase by 10% over the next 10 years, how many electric cars will be sold in Washington in 2025? This should project it out now. This is where it gets really powerful. So if you're a product owner and you're trying to do some, research or trying to find any patterns or that kind of thing, you can see it's telling us, and this is what we should sell in 2024, 2025. You might even be able to say, can you determine any patterns in sales for electric cars in California, Washington? I know that date is there. Washington between 2020 and 2023. See what it says. This means it's going back to the data set. Let's tell me what the patterns are. And consistent growth, new registration. It's a growing market. So these are just basic examples, but this PDF didn't have a lot of data in it, but you can definitely see how if you had a bunch of market data, you could definitely pump that out there and start to look at it and see where is the value to our customers, where is the value to our business, how does these things start to intersect. You can start to pull more PDFs in, right? So you could have your electric car data. You might even then have income data based on people that live in those states and maybe some other demographic data. And then you start to coalesce all this data together and say, well, based on income, what kind of people are buying electric cars, based on region, are certain cars more popular than others, right? So you can definitely, as a product owner, this becomes one of the, in my opinion, one of the most powerful tools of just plain ChatGPT without a whole lot of additional plugins in it. All right, I want to show you, a friend of mine is an expert in this chat, and he created this video for me. And I was going to try to present it, and then I thought, you know what? I am just going to, hopefully this video will actually display. This is how he uses it as a Scrum Master, and he uses it to assign tasks and to do triaging of work that comes in to the ticketing system. I'm going to hope you can hear this sound.
To grab all the feedback that we got about our product, we're going to understand its sentiment, and we're going to understand the area of complaint. And lastly, we're going to assign who's responsible for fixing these things. So we want to fire up our extension, GPT for Sheets and Docs. We're going to launch it. And we'll start with a few formulas. First, we want to do is understand the sentiment. So we'll use the GPT_classify. And we have the value that we want to look at and the different kinds of sentiments. So we've got positive, negative, and neutral. Those positive are different feedbacks across the board. Next, we want to understand the areas of complaints. So either we're going to bucket these into 4 different categories. We've got price, ease of use, bugs, or tagging. So same formula. Let's just change the column that's looking at. And what's interesting is the GPT is reading the feedback and it's sorting it into one of these buckets. So let's take a look at, let's look at a -1, and let's see. The only fault of the company thus far is difficulty I had setting up and connecting to my channels, ease of use. Let's look another, usually the negative ones are the ones that really demonstrate which bucket it belongs to. Though the product has an incredible tool to use to create analytics, the pricing for teams is a bit expensive. So it has an issue with price. And last one, we tried to set up the approval process ourselves, but found it harder to get functioning. So it's ease of use. So it's coming over correctly. Lastly, let's figure out which employee we need to get involved. With this, we're just going to use a prompt that I had put together earlier. Basically, it's kind of simple. I'm recreating a VLOOKUP. So here I'm saying that Brad handles pricing issues, Nancy handles ease of use issues, Tom handles issues with bugs, Lisa deals with tagging issues, and just respond with the name of the person that's responsible for fixing these. So let's do that. Again, we're trying to use GPT for all these different functions that even might be native. So we have on bugs, and Lisa for tagging. Excellent. And now these employees can just go in, filter on their names. So Nancy can go in, What does Nancy have to do? She has to look at this feedback and work accordingly. So there you have it. There's a way to, one, categorize all the feedback that is left for you by the customers, understand its sentiment, understand who's responsible, which areas of business is responsible for the issue, and then which employees can go and remedy those situations.
Thank you, Eugene. So what Eugene doesn't tell you there, because he misunderstood what I wanted him to do necessarily, but is that he also then has this tool then write into our Jira platform and assign them directly to Nancy or whoever, so that they show up on her particular Scrum board so that she can start working on them. We could also then really assign those to whoever we wanted, right? You could assign them to teams, you could put them in some sort of queue, you could do whatever you wanted to that makes sense. But so he's using the ChatGPT inside of Chrome, inside of Google Sheets, excuse me, to translate. They're reading the actual complaints or whatever that the customer sent in and saying, all right, let's assign it to these people because we think it's this kind of issue. And it saves a lot of time for that triage, regardless who does the triage, whether it's the Scrum Master, the product owner, or even a member of the team. They don't have to do it now. They just automatically goes where it needs to go. So there are a lot of native tools that you can add inside of things like Google Sheets. You can add tools inside of Excel, all kinds. And that we should probably have a separate webinar to go over these advanced topics. So this is one of the use cases that we use it for a lot. The one final use case that I use it for oftentimes is to send out emails, to do surveys as a product owner. And I go through LinkedIn, and there's a tool called Browser Flow that you can actually scrape email addresses off of LinkedIn and titles. And then I say, well, if it's based on the title and the interest that the person puts inside of their LinkedIn profile, send them an email asking them to take a survey. And it actually customizes the email. So it's in the conversational tone that it thinks the person on LinkedIn would find most receptive. Right? So if the person is, fun, it seems like they're fun on LinkedIn, then ChatGPT will write a fun email to them. If it seems like they're very conservative, it'll send out conservative. I've even had written it sometimes to say that if they're, certain kinds of skills, then don't send an email at all. So you can definitely use it to save, to do that automation of those emails. And then I, as a product owner, don't have to try to hunt through a bunch of email lists. I don't have to hunt through my CRM to get the data that I want. I can just have the tool scrape through the data and determine for me what I want to send to whom. So these are my kind of use cases that I've been using in the last few months to automate my project work from Scrum. Right? It's a lot of help me write user stories better, help me slice user stories, help my team write better sprint goals, help educate my team on what things are. Right? There are a lot of things that you can do. You can ask it to do. Look at the clock. You can ask it to do retrospective things. So let's just say one more use case, and then we'll start dropping your questions. If you have questions in the thing there, you might say, I need to go back to this, and let's say I have a team. Okay, I am an Agile coach, and I have a team that is struggling with dependencies from external teams. My team does not seem to be able to get all the work done each sprint, and people are not estimating capacity correctly. All right, let's fix this spelling here. Please provide retrospective ideas to address these issues. Let's see what it says. And of course, the more information you give it, it's definitely going to get more, right? It's saying do a stop, start, continue. It's not my favorite one, right? Telling you to create a visual map. I'm going to stop this and I'm going to say, can you provide retrospective ideas besides stop, start, stop. It's hard to type when everybody's watching me. Continue. Let's see what it does now. Dot voting on dependencies. So let's see, it's giving me some other ideas here. Broken comb. Visualize the sprint flow of tasks on the board. Mark points where tasks got stuck or slowed down. The broken comb will highlight. Yeah, I have never heard of the broken comb retro. Boy, I just picked up a new tip for myself. So you can see here, it's giving me all kinds of ideas on how to, you could do a fishbone diagram, the 3 R's, 3 L's, I mean. Right? There's all kinds, it's giving you all kinds of information here about how to potentially run a retrospective, and you could pick one of these 10 ideas and run with it for your retrospective. You could probably get it to elaborate. I know you could get it to elaborate on a little bit more. So let's say on a broken comb retro. Because I've never heard of this one, so let's ask it. There you go. You can go on and on. I can say, now write me a 2-minute script that explains how to do this to a team that's never done this before. It would generate that script and that little thing that you could send out right ahead of time saying, we're going to do a broken comb. This is what you need to do. You could probably ask this, this is fun. You could say, what can the team do in advance to prepare for this type of retro? Let's see what it says. Oh, Marcella just asked a question on the thing. So it's telling you, right, how to do this, how to prepare. How do I handle sensitive information when uploading a file? Well, for one, I'm pretty sensitive at my company about sensitive information. So I would never upload sensitive information into ChatGPT directly. There is a tool that I do use to upload sensitive data. I'll show you what that is. It is called Quiver. Here it's called Quiver, and what Quiver does is the link is wrong. It connects to GitHub, and I then upload all of my data into GitHub, my PDFs into GitHub, and you'll notice it's pretty much the same interface. But this is strictly connected to my GitHub, and it's not actually connected to ChatGPT directly. So I can't ask this questions about anything that comes out of ChatGPT, but I can ask it about things that are stored on my GitHub site to get information. So that way I control the sensitive information to just these connections. So yes, you're going to want to be very careful about putting sensitive information in there. And a lot of things that you read say, it's not sharing that information, but frankly, I'm not so sure. So I would rather that you err on the side of caution. That's a great question. So yes, there are other tools that you can use besides ChatGPT to isolate your data. Any other questions? I am sorry I took so long. I got kind of stuck on that, learning that broken comb. That was kind of fun. All right, we will be posting this on YouTube. as Ann said. And if you want to shoot us an email, we'll be happy to send you a PDF of the deck. That way you can have those, examples there if you want them. So shoot us an email if you're interested in getting those. And we love to teach you some Agile and Scrum classes or teach about AI in any form you want, about programming or anything. So give us a call and we'll be happy to help. Thank you, everybody. I'm running out of time, but you guys have been great. Thanks for listening today.